Politics Done Right is back again, and who do I see here? David.
Yes, I am here.
David Reid from Daily Coast, and the starter, the beginner, the publisher of Black Coast, right?
Correct.
How long ago did you do that?
So that has been going on since, wow, it's been longer than I thought. So now I think I started in 2003.
Yeah, you see, let me tell you something, folks. That is a time when even at a progressive rag like Daily Coast, you needed to have some specificity, and he brought it to us. David Reid, welcome aboard Politics Done Right. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. Happy to be here.
Let me ask you something, David, and I got to put it out. What's happening in the country? What do we have to get changed, my brother?
So there's a lot of things going on in the country. One of the thing, of course, is just, so there's been divisiveness on social issues and divisiveness on economic issues. So if I could start on the social issues, we have a commander-in-chief that preaches divisiveness, and you would think that people impacted by that would be fighting against it. But one of the things we have going on right now is a movement, abbreviations ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, that on one hand they have a valid point that African Americans are a distinct ethnic group, but they also have a very divisive way of expressing that. And when I say divisive, let me be specific. They're saying that they've gone anywhere from saying that people like myself who of Jamaican descent are
and
black,
myself of Panamanian descent
are black, and they've also so they feel that if we are considered to be black, we would be part of the reparations that should be coming, and that they want to ensure that we that are the true black Americans get a piece of that, and don't get a piece of that, I should say. So they've been very active online, and they've been saying this, and it's just, to my point is, were you guys saying this when, Louis Farrakhan, who very militant, but he's also of Caribbean descent, or Malcolm X of partial Caribbean descent, or Shirley Chisholm, or all these other leaders who've been leading the struggle, I never heard you guys speaking up and saying, don't speak for us, don't fight for us. And now, where is this coming from? So some of it has to do with the politics. Some of the people running for office, you sometimes see these kind of tactics. And it really worries me because as progressives, we can't be fighting against someone who's divisive and then pushing divisive politics. So.
No, I want to kind of chime in on ADOS because I've been saying, look, in as much as I've been told all the time, well, you are not ADOS, so you don't understand. I've been doing the progressive thing as being an ally to somebody who feel aggrieved and looking for solutions.
Yes.
My concern about the ADOS movement has little to do with me not getting any part of the pie.
Yes.
My problem with ADOS is that somehow I think it is used not to say we are not from, let's say, the American ethnic group,
yes,
but more sort of an attack,
yes,
for certain things that Caribbean people, Black Latino people, and those folks come over here with some sort of
advantage, or I don't know what it is.
A non-existent advantage.
Yes.
And that is many times what we see as the core of their message. This is ours.
Yes. And if you look historically at people who have been victims of police violence, some of those people have been, black people of Caribbean descent, of African descent. These people are victims of things like police violence. They've been victims of systemic racism when they get here. So this idea that we're somehow seen as different by the larger culture and giving privileges just isn't supported. So that's one thing that has kind of been an undercurrent of some of the discussions here. And then on the economic issues, one of the things that I've been trying to speak up a little bit about is people speak of working class issues, and there's a big comma, and they speak of reaching out to black voters.
Right.
And the largest share of black voters are
working class.
a large share of working class voters are people of color. They're black, Latinos. Working class somehow has been turned into a synonym for white working class when it's not.
Right.
If you're gearing towards the working class, these issues are going to also affect people of color. It's kind of like an implied slight that you're talking about two different groups, and that's something that we really need to recognize as progressives.
Well, what we have to do is let's give an example specifically. When we look at the reason why the Democratic Party would want to have a twice loser as the representative of the party, a twice loser that is of very high age.
Yeah.
When there's competency right below, is because they believe he can win that mythical working class as defined by whom?
Yeah, Trump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is the wrong tactic. The tactic should be bring on the working class, and if you really brought on the working class, you encapsulate anybody, and those that are ideologically blind, we can't do much about that, can we?
Yeah. So just so I'm clear too, I haven't actually backed a candidate yet.
Right.
But one of the things that I see as just a mistake, because I've been very active. I've done voter outreach, and I've done walk precincts, getting people. I've done get out the vote drives, and there seems to be this focus on the Obama to Trump voters, but there's two other groups of voters that I think people forget about. One were the people who simply stayed home.
Right.
These are people who voted in 2008. They voted in 2012, so they were registered, and they didn't vote in 2016. Some of them, of course, is because there's a massive effort to disenfranchise voters, but some of them just weren't inspired to vote.
Right.
And a large share of those are people of color, and to be more specific, black people. In this state where we're in right now, the number of black voters in this city, very city, Philadelphia, dropped substantially, and that was enough to win the state.
Imagine that, and that the same thing occurred in Michigan.
Yes, exactly.
Same, Michigan, in Milwaukee, Iowa.
Yep.
I mean, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And Wisconsin, yeah.
Yes.
And so that needs to be a focus. And then if you want to reach out to another group of swing voters that doesn't get talked about, these are the people that didn't vote for Trump or Hillary, but they voted.
Right.
They found reasons they didn't like Hillary. Hillary didn't inspire them, right? They still don't like Trump. By voting third party, they expressed that they did not like Trump.
Right.
These are voters that we should be reaching out. Why did we lose them? You can go to a lot of reasons, but there are specific policies that the Clinton wing pushed that, to be honest with us as a progressive, we got to say those aren't progressive values, and we lost those voters. And so those two voter groups, to me, should be the focus before we try to win back the mythical. Some of them maybe are going to come back, but none of the numbers we need to win. So we need to inspire, and we need to reach out to the people who felt that we abandoned them. And if we get those two groups of voters, and not just for this election, but going forward, we need to be speaking to these voters and pursuing their issues, not just on election day, not just the month before election, but the other 23 months that are on election month.
Now, David, tell me, you said there were two issues, so that was the social part. What's the other issue?
Yeah, the other issue I said was the economic. What I meant was this division on the working class. But just on a positive note about Netroots Nation, it really has been. It still has a ways to go, but when I first came, when it was yearly coast, I believe. I could literally count all the people of color in one room, and we were in one room at one point, so I could count them. So it has been growing. But one of the things, if I can get back to that kind of division where we say working class when we don't mean people of color, is we need to make sure that panels, for example, if you have a panel on working class issues, you have representatives of people of color. If you have a panel on feminism, you need to make sure that your feminists just aren't college-educated feminists. They're
Ivy League types.
They're Ivy League types. They're the single mom that's working in the cafe. They're the Latina that's working in a hotel in Las Vegas. Those are also feminist issues that need to be represented.
Right.
We're doing better at that, but it isn't just at this conference I'm talking about. I'm talking about the larger progressive movement. That doesn't happen enough. You don't see that on when they pick people, and I mean they pick people to go represent us on mainstream media sources. Right. Those should be voices that we're bringing forth and saying, no, we want this person to represent our movement.
You just allowed me to segue to one of the reasons why a Politics Done Right exists. You just said mainstream media is not putting that sort of stuff on. But you know who's putting that sort of stuff up? If you look around Radio Row, there are a few independent media organizations. We are the ones that are going to be left to do that. And absent that, that doesn't change.
Yeah, and it's really important that that we support independent media, that we support people who are doing podcasts that are speaking to this, and we get those voices out. So one good thing about the social media and the internet, yes, we have a lot of this really horrible behavior that's being inspired by people who support the president and by the president himself. But we can also still use this medium to get our message out. And that's something that we need to remember, is that we don't need to just respond to trolls by, saying back ignorant things back to them. We can literally respond to them by putting a link and say, hey, you know what? This independent media source spoke about this issue, and if you want the facts, why don't you look at this and then get back to me?
Exactly right. We had a process called Be the Media. Be the media, and you can be the media by promoting the media. David, Reid, it's a pleasure every year that I see you to have you on with me. Thank you so kindly for being here.
Thank you for doing what you're doing, and remember, we have to support the voices we want heard.
Thank you so kindly, David.